Welcome to the Scaling Up podcast. Today I got on my Oiler jersey. The Oilers are in the Stanley Cup Finals. Everyone in the city, is wearing their jerseys. There's flags everywhere. There's a buzz. It's cool to see. Last week on the episode, we talked about that week leading into buying a property, what it looks like taking over a property. And this kind of can be like a three-part thing. Today, we're going to talk about after you take over that property, what the next couple weeks and month looks like. So when you take over a property, the first day is always kind of hectic and you're getting the keys and you're getting to meet the tenants. And the first week even is when you're getting like a huge amount of tenants coming to you and they're bringing up every issue that they've had for the last 10 years and they don't like switching to your new system and all that stuff will come. It's scary when you get a new landlord because you have no idea. There is a lot of shitty landlords out there. And if they take over your building and you have to move, that's a big life change. So you want to try to make it as comfortable as possible. On the maintenance side, we've had lots of times where tenants will come and they'll be like, hey, we were promised that we'd get new flooring and we were and they'll come up with stuff that you really have no way to actually verify or you don't know if you want to do. Our company policy, we generally don't do a lot of stuff like that when the tenant's in it. It's just a huge headache to do flooring. It'll cost way more if the unit's occupied and you're moving stuff from room to room. So stuff like that, if it's not realistic, you don't want to do it, I don't think, in the first little bit, because also word gets out very quickly. And if you go do something for one person, if you paint their unit that they've lived in for a couple of years, the next tenant's going to want it, and it's just going to be a snowball. So you do have to still set boundaries, but as much as you can, get the maintenance stuff cleared up. We find a lot of times too, like even though it says in the purchase agreement that they're supposed to give you, a list of all the maintenance tickets that were out and are supposed to be done. I don't think we've ever actually got that. So you will get tenants that are a month later will come and just be super upset because their maintenance didn't get done, but it never did get passed along to us. So that's always an issue that you kind of have to deal with. The other thing is, when you take over, you're going to get rent. Let's say you take over on the 15th, you're going to get paid for those 15 days of rent, the last 15 of the month. And that first month, the first of the first month that you take over is really when you find out a lot of stuff, right? You're going to see that they might not have been accurate at all. They might have left tenants in there that weren't actually paying just to keep the vacancy up or vacancy low. And you'll find that out on the first, right? When all of a sudden 5 people don't pay, or we've taken over properties and the people aren't even there that they said were on the rent roll. So stuff like that you have to kind of assume is going to happen. The seller's trying to make it look as good as possible. The property manager, who might not even might not work directly for the owner, they're trying to make it look as good as possible. And it's very easy to say units are full or this tenant's paying, or it's just easier than trying to go through the eviction process. A lot of times, depending on the size of the building, but there'll be evictions that are already halfway through when you take over, or maybe the order's already been given. And that's kind of a headache to try to do then, because all the documents are going to be under somebody else's name and you're going to have to try to still get that person out or reissue an order. So those are things to look for. Depending too, like we've had owners, when we buy a building, they'll try to sneak it in the purchase agreement where it says that they'll just whatever's owed to them. So if they have outstanding balances of, a couple $1,000s, it'll just come up, we'll have to pay that basically when we buy the building, and then we have to collect that money. And you want to make sure that's not in there, because there's no reason that we should go collect money that they should have done. Like that's not on us, and it's very hard to get money out of tenants. I think it is important to set the standard on month one. We've done it in the past where we're kind of lenient. Like if people don't pay on the first, we don't charge the late fee the first couple months because they're getting used to it. But you really need to, and you can always back off it after and say, because it's the first month and, maybe you didn't have the app downloaded or something wasn't correct. You can always take it away, but if you don't set that standard, people are going to push it. And when we first bought the trailer park, we found that we'd never owned property before, and we didn't really do late fees, and we would listen to everyone's stories, and you just found people just push it, right? If you say there's not a late fee till the 5th, people will pay on the 5th and then they'll complain. Or if you say it's the 15th. So you have to set that right away. So with our process right now on all our portfolio, if the money's not paid on the 2nd, the first late fee gets charged and it goes from there, right? Because that date really doesn't matter if it's the 2nd or the 5th. People are going to going to be late, and you have to set that standard pretty quick when you're taking over a new property. On the expense side, there's always going to be things, you know, that you're maybe not thinking of. Or the first building we ever took over that had an elevator. I mean, it was constantly going down. They charge $600, I think, every time they come out to restart it, or it's a huge number for sure if it's on a weekend. And there's things like that that, you budget in an amount, or they show you an amount on their operating budget, and it couldn't be way wrong, right? We had the same thing with the pool. I mean, we took it over, and I think there was like a power surge and something went out with the pool, and there can be huge expenses that you weren't really expecting. So you want to make sure that you have a budget, and if you have the money sitting there, like spend it at the beginning, because you're going to end up spending it anyway. So if you just limp something along, I think you are better off to do it in that first little bit. It looks good to the tenants if you go in and do improvements, or you're showing that you're spending money on the property. I do think it helps ease their mind a little bit that you didn't just buy this and then you're just going to let the property run down. But there's things like that. Like elevators, if you ever take over a property with a pool, that's, way more expenses than we would look at, because there's what, almost like the CapEx expenses of changing the pool line or doing things like that. And then there's the regular maintenance of it. The other thing that you should have figured out beforehand, but if you're taking over in the middle of a year, like our new properties, we're taking over in September or August or September, like we might need a few grass cuttings before the end of the year, like a little bit of that. And then you're getting into the snow contract, which will be easy because that's a full season. But you have to have something in place to do that partial year, right? Like a lot of companies won't want to come and mow the property twice, right? Because they already have their schedule, and like bigger companies, I'm talking about a bigger property. So you want to make sure that that's in order. Another thing to look for when you're going into buying the building, and you'll kind of see this within the first month when you go in and get the first set of bills, like your electric and your gas bill will come in. You have to look, if you were budgeting that based on their expenses, they might have had one way or the other. They might have had a fixed rate that was way lower than what the current rate is, right? And you can't transfer that over. So if they were getting gas at 30% below what you are, you have to understand that, your bill is going to be 30% more. So things like that can be kind of surprising. I mean, it doesn't fluctuate right now as much as it has in the past. And it could go the other way. They might have been locked in at a really high rate, and you could get it lower today. But there is things like that, right? That can come up that kind of surprise you. And I think just in general, like we've never taken over a property, I don't think once, where we take over and the first month or two is just exactly how they had laid it out, right? Every tenant's great, everybody's staying, everybody's paying. It just never works out that way. And it's no fault of the seller. Like we're no different. If you're going to sell a building, you want to tell the absolute best story you can, right? So you'll see it with brokers. They'll take a bad neighborhood and they'll say it's gentrifying. 2 to 3 years from now, this is going to be great. And they'll say that same story for 10 years, and the neighborhood never changes. And it's kind of the same with a building. You're trying to make this story look as best possible, right? So you're leaving tenants in there that maybe you'd kick out. You want almost no vacancy. You want to make it look like everybody's paying. So be aware of that when you take over. It's not going to look like your pro forma, probably for the first month or two. Like I believe, and we've kind of seen this with every property we bought, to truly stabilize a property, to get it where vacancy is where we want it, where turnover is where we want it, where maintenance is where we want it, it's about 2 years, right? The first year you can get a lot done, but you're always, when people are on year contracts, it takes a long time to figure out who the tenants are that are causing all the problems or causing the damage, and and so it takes you kind of need 2 years to turn everybody over, and you move in good, the tenants that are going to be really good and going to be long-term tenants. And it even takes a long time for people to like learn to trust the company, right? It's like, hey, they've been here 2 years, they've done what they said. So just always expect that things are going to come up that you weren't planning for or weren't budgeting for, because it's always going to happen. There's going to be things that they just limped along just to get it there, because if you're 2 months from a sale, you're not going to go do a huge CapEx spend on something if you could just do a little fix that might only last a year or two. So that's always going to happen. The first month is crucial, I think, as far as just getting the tenants to feel comfortable and understand what you and the company's about. and for you to kind of start to get a feel for what things will really look like, what the tenant base is like, what your costs are going to be, right? And it like I said, it'll take a year or two to get a true picture of that, but just, I guess, expect the unexpected when you're coming in for that first couple weeks or first month or two. And a lot of the episodes, I think, going forward, we're going to talk about stuff that's tailored to people who already have properties. There's so much content out there already on how to buy a property and how to underwrite a property, and it just kind of gets to be the same thing. I think there's not a lot of content from operators where they're actually explaining what they do day to day, or what they're seeing, and how it is to actually manage a property. And those are the questions that I get asked a lot. So I think we're going to tailor a lot of the content kind of towards that. Thanks for watching this episode. We'll see you guys next time.